So, Cece, in about another minute or two, you can start, and then it's all yours.
Hello, thank you all for joining me on my senior exhibition artist talk. My name is Ceci Barr. I'm a double major here at Doane in theater and art with an emphasis in liberal arts. This show is for my professional practices class, and the title of it is 68510. I chose this title because it is where the majority of the houses I drew where they reside in, and it's also my home zip code in Lincoln, Nebraska. This show focuses on unique houses in Lincoln, Nebraska, so I thought adding that into the title would really, it made more sense to me than anything else. My artist statement, I chose to use charcoal because it fascinates me in the contrast that it creates when applied and erased. I used the subtractive method and I also used the additive and put back black into spots where I thought it needed a richer contrast than just the midtone of the charcoal that I used. The focus is unique houses in Lincoln, Nebraska. These unique houses stem from just the basic structure of the house, or even just the type of siding that it had, if it was vertical siding as opposed to the more normal horizontal, or even if it had diagonal siding, which is something that's not really seen. And even metal houses, there's one in Lincoln that is very unique because it is like a cargo house. And all these houses have a unique feature to themselves, and each give off a different unique feeling with each and every one of them. My influences for these drawings are William Kentridge, Richard Bunkell, and Robert Longo. Really, William Kentridge is a charcoal artist who does a lot of architectural drawings, but he also does a lot of other things. One of his main focuses that he does is he'll do his charcoal drawings in a series and make a video out of them. And within the video, he'll erase and you'll be able to see what he has drawn before and a new drawing on top of it, which is really unique. He is also a scenic designer. Since my other major is theater, finding somebody who does both theater and charcoal drawings was really special to me because it connected on a deeper level for me. He involves his charcoal art into theater. He'll have them projected and be the background of their sets. So I thought that was really unique because that's something I've never seen before. Richard Bunkell is my other influence because of his architectural drawings. He does it in graphite and he does some in colored pencil. His style is more ghostly. He'll leave behind marks that didn't necessarily be in the spot that they were supposed to be, but it still makes a strong image and gives more of a mark making texture to his art. Robert Longo is my last influence. He has a few architectural drawings in his charcoal, but he is mainly a figure artist, and that's what he's most known for, is his charcoal figures with the giant contrast in the black and white, which is something that I really like with charcoal. He also inspires me to try to be more realistic in my artwork because I know it can be done with charcoal because he has done it, and it's inspiring to me. This is the first drawing that I did. I did this in August, right before school started, and I finished it, I believe, on the first day of school. This drawing was originally in a 24 by 28 format, but it is now in a 16 by 22. I decided to cut it down because before there was a lot of bushes in front of the house and some trees on the side, and I really wanted to focus on the house itself. One thing I really like about charcoal is that if you do something, it is very easily erased, especially on Reeves BFK paper, which is the paper that I chose to do. I can't tell where the bushes were, even though they were pretty dark, and I think that's just a really unique factor to what this medium can do. Bringing the drawing in closer and really focusing on the house gave it a unique feeling in the way where the house looks kind of eerie, and it just kind of plays with different emotions that you can have on it. I like the different values that it has. For this one, I actually also used white charcoal pencil on the bricks, which gave it a different feeling than the siding, which was supposed to happen because they are two different materials, and I really wanted to show that, and it worked really well with that. I decided to name these pieces their addresses because that's when you think of a house, you think of the address, and I didn't want to name it something else and then have this idea of that's what it needed to like feel like was the name, and so I thought putting the address would just give it what it is. And if you wanted to go find these unique houses, you also could, which I thought was really a cool aspect of these drawings. I also did this drawing in August, and it was also bigger in the same original format as the other one. Cutting this one down also solidified to me the idea of the more intimate drawing. I feel like since it is more focused on the most unique part of the structure, it really makes the drawing stronger instead of having the rest of the house kind of disappear and not look as good if it was in the fuller format. And there's not a lot of gray tone space as there used to be, and it just makes the drawing a lot stronger. I drew this house in September. This is the cargo house that I mentioned in my artist statement. I found this house and thought that it was one of the most unique houses I've seen, especially in Lincoln, because there is not a lot of these. This is one of the only ones that I have seen. And when I saw it, I knew that I had to draw it for the show. There's a lot of different perspectives within this house. I took a lot of different shots and tried to find the ones that fit the most. This drawing had its ups and downs. The staircase, I think, was the hardest part about this whole process because I've never drawn a staircase from behind. I've only ever done it from the front. And so trying to figure out how it looked and how to do it with my values was a very good feeling when I finished it because it was a new skill that I had unlocked for me. I took pictures of the process of this house. I gridded it out in a white charcoal pencil because I decided that it would be easier to erase than the black charcoal. and it was easy to put black over it. And if I wanted to take the white away, I could just erase it and there would be no lines left. And so I outlined the whole house in white first before I started putting back any values or erasing. I wanted to find out which part of the drawing had my midtone so that I could try to use that most effectively. And where I found that was in the siding. So I added in my darker values to give the difference, and I erased some of where the siding was to give a little bit of where the sun was hitting it. In my second progress photo, I started erasing around the outside of the house because I wanted to make it stand out more, but I decided to add more charcoal back into it at the end of the drawing because it led the eye to the halo around the house, and I wanted the main focus to be the house and not what was around it. I started from the more detailed part up, down, and left the less detailed part for last because I wanted to focus more of my time on the siding of the house and all the different angles of siding that I had to do. This next drawing is the same house, but a different angle. I thought since this house had so many different perspectives that it was very necessary to have another drawing of it, but from a different view. This view is from the back side of the house and kind of the side of the house. The top and the bottom part of the cargo shipments were in the other drawing that I did. This is just the back side of it. I really enjoyed doing a close-up of this house because I got to do more of the detail and the metalwork and the variations of colors. I also tried to do like the halo effect with this house, like in the last one, but decided to cover it back up. And I stuck with that throughout the rest of my drawings because it does focus more on the house, which is what this whole show is about, is just the houses. I chose this next house because of the difference in material on it. The majority of the house is stucco, and then there's brick accents like on the chimney and the doorway and the platform. There are two different types of brick on this house, which I really enjoyed. The doorway was more of a lighter brick, so I went back in with the white charcoal pencil to try to give a different tone to it than the rest of the brick, which was a lot darker than that one. And I think that worked really well. I also like the wood paneling on the house. It's in a very different and unique shape than any other wood paneling, especially on the bigger part of the house. This next house I did in October. I chose this house because every time I drive by it, it really sticks out to me. Most houses, or all houses, really don't have an extra piece of roof jutting out from the garage in kind of a weird shape like this one is. So I thought focusing more on that and on the garage made it more of a unique drawing and a unique house as it is. Like this house and the last house, I zoomed it back because I wanted to show more of the house and try to get as much as I could into the drawing. It's kind of put into the proscenium, which, since I am a theater major, kind of made sense in my brain to do it that way so everyone could see it. There is a lot more of the mid-tone background, but I know that it kind of helps with the whiteness of the siding. And then just the siding itself, I used a lot of the mid-tone color on the siding. I mainly just added black on the siding for this house because it didn't need as much of the bright highlights as the other houses did for the siding. This next drawing was also done in October. I use the subtractive method the most on this house, which I had a lot of fun with because I tried my best to only add black into the spots that were actually the deep black. So for the siding, I erased and tried to keep as much as the mid-tone color in there as I could and not adding anything back. It was not hard, but sometimes I had to remind myself that I can't take away as much as I want. And then for the brick, I had to add a little bit more in to give more of the different variety that was in the house because I wanted to stay true to that. The angles of this house were really unique to me, and it's a new style of house that I was seeing when I was going around and finding houses to do for this show. And it was really unique to me because I've never seen a house with an angled roof like that, even not just the garage, but the whole entire house, because they were all angled, which I thought was very unique. This next house is kind of the opposite of the last one that I just showed. It was done with mainly the additive version of charcoal. I wanted to kind of give that contrast between what I had just done and with this house. It was fun to switch, but it was also hard in my mind because instead of erasing, I had to remember to add and where to add at. You can kind of see the grid on this house, which would help me with the next decision that I made. Instead of doing white gridding like I had done before, I switched to black in my next drawing, and I think that really helped knowing that sometimes it worked, but sometimes it didn't, and I needed to make that conscious decision to switch up what I was doing for the better of my drawings, and not because it was something that I was used to doing. This next house I started in February and finished. I decided to zoom more in and not see my houses in a proscenium anymore, and to give more of that intimate feeling that I had in my first few drawings. This was hard for me at first, but I decided to put my pictures into the scale that I was originally using for my paper. So instead of putting them into the 16 by 22 scale like I had been, I put them into the 24 by 28 and then I cropped them. And by doing that, it really gave me the feeling of what I wanted to do by my first few drawings, and it really helped me a lot. This house I wanted to draw because of the wood paneling that is by the door. It's very unique with like the S shape that is by the door. I also liked how the house was so light and then it had this big contrast with the door and the siding on it. Um, and the windows itself were very unique. The one by the door has like cross hatching in it, which I hadn't been seeing, and it's more of an old style house, which I found very unique. This next house was also done in February. I chose this house because of how many different angles there were in it. Kind of like the cargo house, it had a lot of different perspectives. I decided to do the one where you had the main focus, the main part of the building, but then there were other rooms jutting out from it because I thought that was the most unique perspective this house had. This house is all siding, which was fun to draw because I hadn't been drawing siding for a while with all my other ones. The windows gave it kind of this eerie feeling because there's large windows on one side of the house, but then the other side has four little tiny rectangle windows and no big window like you would usually see on a house. They were just very small and not as inviting as other houses, which I thought gave me a unique feeling when looking at this. And all the different values that's in it, the really white of the siding from the highlights, and then the darkness and the shadows that the other angles had given. I did this house in March. The stone of the house was very unique in the shape of the house too, because it's more of like a trapezoid shape than like the usual square houses that have limestone on them. I really liked the arch, and I thought that you don't really see arches like that around Lincoln. The roof was also one of the main things, and I thought it translated really well into black and white because in color, it's the roof has like three different colors, and when transferring it, it gave this beautiful contrast of white and mid-tone and black and all these different colors on the scale that really transferred well. This next drawing I also did in March. This house has a different stone than the last house, one that I don't really see a lot, or at least didn't when I was doing my research for all this. It was more of like a white limestone-ish, and it had a texture that isn't usually seen. It also had this beautiful stone around the door, very unique. You usually don't see the door outlined in a different type of stone than the house is, and that really caught my eye, along with the vertical paneling that was done on the house. And it also had the different color rooftop as the other house. This house and the last two houses were in the same zip code, along with the other houses that I will be showing, which is probably why they're so unique, but there's some similarities to each other, but they're all very different from one another. House next is a different stone as well, but it also had the unique stone of like being a little different when the main house hit where the doorway part of the house was. There's like a little, it looks kind of like a ladder, but it was done in a completely different siding of the house than the rest. It also has different roof siding on other parts of the houses. The top part of the roof has the big different colored ones, but then when you get to the slanted part, it has more of a smaller, same color type of not brick, siding. And I found that really unique, and I really love how it works together. For this house, I did a progress photo as well. This one I showed how I gridded it out. I did it on Photoshop because it was easier and the lines were thinner than if I were to print the paper out and line them up myself. And then I have a picture of me halfway through the process. I did start using black graphite pencil to grid it out, and it helped a lot. Not distracting from the other things like I thought it would. It actually went just as smooth as the other one. For this house, the process of it, I started out with my lights first, and I tried to get as much white in there as I could, and then I would go in with lining all the bricks out and trying to subtract from those bricks and being as not repetitive as the process could have been, because usually if I erased, I would have to go back and do it, but I found a process where it was a lot faster and I didn't have to go back in, which was just outlining figuring out which bricks were my mid-tone colors, and then erasing the ones that I didn't want. And then I have the finished product on the bottom. This next house is actually the same house as the last one. I decided, just like the cargo house, I wanted a different angle or different perspective with this house because of how the angles of it look like. From the front view of this house, I would have never guessed that there was so much dimension within it. I feel like this angle really shows how unique this structure really is. And it gives a new perspective on the side of the house because you start to see that there's siding also with this house, and the little porch that it has underneath has that as well. This is the last drawing that I did. I decided to do this house because I wanted to go back a little bit more to my other drawings, how I was doing it more in a proscenium setting, but not as much as that. This house is very close up, but there's also some negative space that isn't being used, which ties back into what I had been doing before. This house has diagonal siding, which I usually don't see anywhere. So when I saw it, it really caught my eye. And I thought it was really unique because not only a little part of it had it, but a whole entire side of the house had it, which I thought was very unique and cool to see. I also liked the details on the garage and how there's also brick on the house along with siding and the wood paneling on the top. I thought it all just kind of tied together because it had everything that I was seeing that I really enjoyed in all of these houses. So my open reception is tomorrow from 5 to 6:30 in the Wall Gallery. I want to thank you all for listening to my senior exhibition artist talk.
Ceci, great job. If there's no other questions, we can. Olivia might have a question. If Ceci, if you want to answer that.
I think I do see myself evolving this in the future and working a little bigger. I feel like it was a really fun series for me to do, and I keep finding houses that I really want to draw and expand upon. So.
Okay. Like Ceci said, her show is currently up at the Raw Gallery in Crete, Nebraska at Doane University. Her reception is tomorrow from 5 to 6:30. So if you're around, please stop by and say hi and check out this great work. They are looking at a photograph and looking at a picture virtual doesn't do the justice of all the detail that Ceci did put into all this work. So again, Ceci, great job on this, great presentation, and look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow. Thank you.